this is a good time of year that everybody needs to be safe, and please take good care of yourself in those 3 movements: slips, trips, and falls.
Gary, are you still there?
Here.
Okay.
Okay. So this magazine is here in the town hall. If anybody wants to come and look at it, it's here for the public to view. Okay, that's the correspondence, and we are now up to pay orders. And so therefore, it's time to say goodnight to everybody at home. Please be careful with the snow and ice, avoiding trips, slips, and falls. And thank you for joining us this evening. Good night.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of Montpelier Connection. I'm State Representative Mike Merwicki from the Wyndham 4 District of Putney, Dummerston, Westminster, and we have just concluded an election season. It's getting to the end of the year, which means the new year is coming and a new legislative session. To talk about, we have Representative Tristan Tolino here.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. It was an interesting election nationwide. In many cases, I think the Democratic performance met the expectations. I don't think many people assumed the Senate was going to turn, given the conditions on the national scene for where those Senate seats were, but the 40 pickups in the House were good. Here in Vermont, we picked up 12 seats. Democrats did.
I should know that answer right off the top of my head. Yes, 12.
Yeah, I think
if I do the math, we went 83 to 95.
To 95. And one of the things we were just talking about is what a broad spectrum it is for Democrats. We have a spectrum of people who are pretty darn conservative, a lot of people moderate to the left and the progressive side. So it's holding that together is something that you well know about being in leadership, and we'll have our challenges. But looking at the election, we did pretty well. It was a lot of hard work and did that, but what are your other insights? What were the
Sure.
drivers here.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. And let me just introduce myself to the members of the public. I am one of the 3 members who serve the Brattleboro community. I represent the 3rd district, which is roughly 1/3 of Brattleboro's geography. For those of you who know Brattleboro well, it's most of the downtown and north to the Dummerston town line and west over to just a little bit past the highway. And I also serve as the assistant majority leader for the House Democratic Caucus. And so some of the context for Mike's questions are related to the role that I play as part of our political leadership team within the House. And so let me pivot to those questions and see, I think there are a variety of different things. Certainly from the Democratic Party perspective, there was a lot to like about this election cycle at the national level. To have made gains in at least one body in Congress, I think brings some balance and some opportunity for conversations about accountability, but also conversations about negotiations, I guess I would say, for more moderate outcomes than has been currently true under a Congress totally controlled by Republicans. In Vermont, we did see a pretty significant shift in the Vermont House. We have gone from a body with 53 Republicans and a couple of quite conservative independents to, I think, a net of 43 Republicans and a couple fewer independents. And as you mentioned, a gain of 12 Democrats. I will caution people, you may have seen a headline that the House wins a veto-proof majority and all of this similar language. And I think that speaks to the point that you were raising about the Big Tent. And the reality is that while we have 95 Democrats and there are 7 progressives, the range of political thinking within that group of 102 is pretty significant. And in order to override a potential veto of a governor, the House has to have 100 votes to override, 2/3 of the body, and so that's why that number has been very prominently discussed, and also in part because this current governor, who just was reelected relatively easily to his 2nd term, has probably the most active veto behavior of any governor.
13 last year?
Yeah, I think it was 13 last year or 14 overall, and one of the very few who's vetoed a budget. So he's been a very